Hey everyone! Welcome back to Red Letter Talk with Rylee. I'm excited to be with you guys today, and I know that I wasn't here last week. I was actually in Texas, a lot of you guys know. Hi Bill! I was in Texas last week, and I was actually going to still do Red Letter Talk, and because Jackson and I were teaching that week, and then Monday happened and it was quite tiring and had a lot of stuff that I needed to do still for like the next day for teaching. So I was like, I was still doing that while Red Letter Talk should have happened. So I'm sorry that I wasn't here last week, but thank you all for your prayers. And I know a lot of you guys asked us how our trip went on Sunday. And so thank you so much for your prayers and for just asking us and thinking of us. And it went really well. It was a lot of fun being there. And but I'm excited to be back. And so I'm just going to get started. Hi, Pam. And what we have been doing for the past, month or so is we've been talking about Jesus and the words of Jesus, but especially we're doing the Sermon on the Mount right now, and what Jesus has said to his followers. And so we're almost done. It's pretty much three chapters long. Hi, Sharon. It's 3 chapters long, and we're finally on the last chapter. And so we'll still be here for about a few more weeks, probably. We'll see. But it is in Matthew 7, 1 through 6 is what we're going to specifically talk about tonight. And honestly, I was going to go forward in more and talk about more, but I really feel like this is such an important topic that I think I could probably just talk about this for a while. But chapter 7, verse 1, it says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there's a plank in your own?" Hi, Miss Barbara. You hypocrite. First, take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So we're going to talk about that first, which is a very important thing, especially he's talking to his followers, but, especially the culture and everything that's going on, that it's one of those things that he's not only saying, hey, don't do this, but telling you what's going to happen if you do. So it's a very clear indicator for us that this is something that he does not want us to do, because the way that we judge people is how we will be judged. And I do not want to be judged the way that, I could judge someone. So it's that kind of almost impact as well of looking at your own heart of, okay. And really with all of this, it's kind of looking at this, hello, Today's Harvest Church, looking at this and saying, the why behind it. Like, why is Jesus saying this? Why is this happening? And honestly, I think a lot of us can say that to judge others is really hurtful. Like, it's just a hurtful thing to do to anyone. And especially when it's saying this, he was rebuking this judgmental attitude, that tears down people. And especially as Christians, I know that our judgment to other people can be really harmful to them. And it, and there's to us as well, but especially when we know and Jesus is calling us not to, it can just even feel even more. And this is something that I really I've honestly felt, hi Paulette, I've really honestly felt the past, few weeks at least, of just kind of a conviction on this as well, of really what am I thinking of, hi Pastor Rick, thinking of like in my mind, and we talked a lot about this last year at church about the things of your mind and what do you think about, and one of them I think is super important is not to judge others, because again, if you have this critical eye, criticalness is, and especially to other people, it's not always true what you're judging them on. And especially as a church, we should welcome those, even if we don't agree with them or don't live the same lifestyle or whatever, because really we're not the ones that need to judge. Like, that's God's job. And again, when we do judge, we are taking that position on ourselves, which we are not, and so and that's something that I've had to come to, like, okay, if you're judging this person, you are basically putting in this position that you are like able to judge other people and higher than thou, and it's like, but that is not your place, and really walking in humility of not understanding, where people are coming from. You have no idea why people are the way they are, what has brought them to this place. And so judging them, again, puts you in this tone of this is the narrow view where you can't see where God is taking like you to help that person. And this is just a example. I heard this years ago. I'm pretty sure the guy this happened to is a pastor now. Again, I heard this story a long time ago, but it makes me tear up every time I think about it. But it's about this man who was homeless, and he didn't have any shoes on, but he really felt like he was supposed to go to church. And he goes to this church, and it's, pristine, it's beautiful, and he walks in, and it's just packed with people around. And he's walking around, and he can't find a seat anywhere. And people are just kind of looking at him, and all this stuff. And he's looking around and looking for a place to sit, and there's nowhere to sit. And nobody's trying to, like, help make room, like, they're just staring at him. And so he goes all the way up to the front, in the front row, and he sat on the floor. And he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, one of the deacons of the church walked over to him, and he took off his shoes, and he sat right next to him, and he goes, "Nobody should sit alone at church." And I love that story to this day, because I think that is such the heart that we need to have for people. Like, it's just so beautiful of, like, instead of, like, looking like, why is he here? It's like, that's why he, like, it just drives me nuts, because it's like, oh, why would he be here? It's like, because that's the kind of people that Jesus was trying to reach. Like, that's him. Like, right there is who is Jesus is supposed to reach, like, was trying to reach, is those who don't know him, who don't have any, that's why Jesus came. Like, and it just drives me nuts when, like, us as Christians, and I'm saying even myself in that, like, we can look at someone of, like, why are they at church? Because they deserve to know the Lord just like you do. Why do you get to know the Lord and not them? And again, this is not me, like, saying it specifically to you. I know a lot of you guys agree with me, so I know I'm not saying, but I just get really passionate. So if it seems like I'm yelling tonight, I'm not. I'm just very passionate about this topic, because I think this is something that really can hinder people coming forward for the Lord, because of what their view is. If you ask a lot of people, if you just go out the street and ask people what their view of Christians are, I guarantee you at least half of them will say judgmental. like at least half, because of what they have experienced, what they know from other people. And again, I think this one is so important that Jesus is clearly saying this, and how important it is to be this way, and just loving to people. Of, again, you might not know them, like, and maybe you do know them. You're like, no, they really are this way. Okay, but again, that's Jesus's job then, to come into their lives, and to really minister to them. And he might use you to do that. And I think it's having that, okay, Lord, like, really, what do you see in this person? And honestly, when I was, back in my old church in Nebraska, I was a youth leader for like a few years, and honestly, and again, like, some of those teens were rough, and some of those teens had some stuff going on. They were, some of them were a tough group, and they were really great, but, and, teenagers. So I would just pray, and most of the time my prayer was, Lord, like, let me see what you see. Let me hear what you hear, and let me feel what you feel tonight. And really, when I see these people, let me be a part of this. And honestly, that was something I would pray over and over, because it's really easy to get in my own mindset of, okay, well, this person, clearly they have attention, like, problem and need attention from people. It's like, well, why do you think this girl needs attention from everyone? Like, why do you think that is? And who can give her the attention that she needs? The Lord. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, instead of looking at the outward, let's look a little inward. And especially when it's saying, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own? And again, it's so easy to judge other people, and judge what's going on, and then have this large thing in your eye of like, that, it's so easy to do that, because again, then you can't look at your own problems. You can look at other people's, and it's so much easier to say something about other people's problems than to deal with your own. And I know that, like, it's something that's so easy to do, of like, oh, well, this person, they're doing this. Meanwhile, you're doing something that's 10 times worse. Again, I'm not calling anyone out. I'm just saying, I know that you guys know this, but because again, what does that show people, of having this? And I can't remember where it's from. I was just reading it, but it's that parable that Jesus gives, where there is two men who come before the Lord, and one of them's a Pharisee and one of them is a sinner. And the Pharisee is praying, and he goes, God, thank you that you did not make me like that. Like, thank you, Lord, that I am not like that I am not him. And the sinner was right next to him and saying, Lord, forgive me for my sins. Like, and I am a sinner before you. And that kind of, like, that is something that that Christians can do, of, well, look at that person. God, thank you that I am not like that I do not need to do that on social media, or I don't need to, like, say this, like, thank God that I'm not this, like, political, place, or, different things like that. When it's, but that sinner, that person is saying to the Lord, like, I am a sinner, forgive me. And that heart is what we need to have, and again, what changes people is not us judging them and telling them, hey, you need to do this. What changes people is our own, like, when we can see, like, oh, I have this problem, like, Lord, I am a sinner before you, and they see that life change, and they see you change in those ways, that makes other people want to change, and I think that's what God and Jesus is going for with this is, hey, don't look at, like, what other people are doing. Focus on your own stuff. Focus on your own sins. And when you do and you start, that's how you can witness. And that's how you can show my love, is through that change of, wow, you're always like, and I know people who get this all the time of, hey, you're very happy. Like, you just seem happy all the time. Why is that? That's a perfect example to then share your opinion, of like, oh, it's God. And that's a great way. And there's other ways, I'm not saying that's the only way to, minister to people, but that's just something that I know that works. I just know. And that's what Jesus wants for us, is to, again, not to judge other people, but to really really see them the way that God sees them. Because God sees them completely different than we see other people. And again, it's that prayer, and I encourage everyone to do it, because it really has changed my life, of just, Lord, like, let me see what you see. Let me hear what you hear. Let me feel what you feel. I want to know these people the way that you do. I want to minister the way that you minister to their hearts, God, that I want to see way past their actions and way past their sins and more into their hearts, and how, again, that motivation, because once you pray for them, it's hard to judge them. It just is. Once you really pray for them and really pray for who they are and pray for them to encounter God, it's much harder to judge them. And that's, again, an experience I've had. It's very hard to judge someone once you prayed for them and prayed blessings over them. And again, if that's what you need to do, start there, of blessing these people and even asking for forgiveness in those ways. And so, and then the last part is in chapter 7, verse 6, which says, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." And basically, what this is saying is, especially when you are spreading the gospel, you're sharing about God, there are people who are just going to be shut down. And again, it's not saying to stop necessarily, but it is saying, okay, don't throw your pearls to pigs. And basically, the pigs were unclean, like an unclean animal. And especially the people who thought that they were so righteous and so much better than everyone, he's basically telling them, hey, you probably are not going to change their minds. This is what they believe. And hi, Donna. And it's not saying that they're never going to change, but it's also saying don't waste your time on that. Especially if they, as the Pharisees, have their view, you can try, but when it's not pressing anymore, go pray for somebody who is going to, receive. And again, that doesn't mean to stop praying for them and stuff like that, but it is just in this, don't throw your pearls to pigs. Don't waste your time on that. And I think that is really important too, because I know that there's people that are so set in their ways, and it's okay, God, I pray for encounters for them, but it's not taking all my time and energy. Does that make sense? It's not taking all my time and energy thinking of this when they're not going to receive it now. And so again, it's praying for them and, encouraging, but also knowing, if somebody, God is such a gentleman, he really is, where he is not going to force himself on you. He's not going to force to have a relationship with you, but he's ready, he's there. And so that's how we need to be, if that makes sense. Not forcing people, it would be great if we could just force everybody to just give God a chance, and they do, but that's just not how that works, and it can't be that way. So it's, okay, they still have a choice if they're going to receive or not. And I think praying for that, yes, but you can't force someone to believe that, because then that's not really believing. So I hope that makes sense. And so that's pretty much all I have for tonight. Because I just really wanted to get just into that of, especially with judgment. And I know that this is something I'm really passionate about. And also needing to even look at my own life, you know, and honestly, before I started, I really did just pray just for forgiveness, of that, asking for forgiveness for this, because I know that this is something that, again, it can be really easy to do, and really easy to be a part of. And I shared this, when I spoke on Wednesday, but I just think it's relevant for this as well, is that a girl that, when we went to Arizona a few months ago, she was gonna go, her and her husband is who we went to hang out with, and we were gonna go do something, but she was gonna stay back because she was gonna go to something with her coworkers, and because one of her coworkers was really struggling, and so that's why she was gonna go. Well, then end up all of them are going, and I was talking to her about it. I was like, oh, you decided not to go, and she was like, well, their boss just got fired, and she's like, I just know that if I go, all they're gonna want to do is just gossip and talk bad about her, and I don't want to be a part of that. And especially, she's like, I wish I was stronger, that I could just confront it, you know, and tell them. And she's like, but right now, I just think the best part is if I just don't participate. So, because they all know that I'm a Christian, they all know that, and I don't want to feed into that, them thinking that Christians are judgmental. And I really had so much respect for her, because I'm like, that's not easy to do, because she agreed with them, you know, she did not get along with her boss, and it would be really easy for her to just be feed into that and agree with that, but instead she took a stance and she didn't go. And again, I think that's just so respectful of I don't know, it's just really cool that she was able to do that. And so I just encourage, if there is areas if you go to this friend, you're going to talk about this, or if you if somebody brings up this person, you're going to say, and taking that step back of, okay, do I need to do this? Do I need to be a part of this? And yeah, I'm going to pray us out, but thank you all for watching. And yeah, I'll see you next week. But Lord, I just want to thank you for your goodness, God, and that you are such a good God, and you love us so much, Lord. And even in times of, frustration or just bored or whatever, God, that it can be really easy to just put judgments on other people. And I really do pray that there would just be a conviction in our hearts, of what we say, of what we do, and what we are a part of, Lord. And I just pray that we would bring so much more love and life into this world than darkness and hate, Lord. And so I just pray, even in our thoughts, God, I just pray just a conviction over the people that we're thinking of, the people that really do probably just need you, Lord. And I just pray just encouragement, God, for those who might be struggling with someone or something going on, God, that I just pray for just your peace and your discernment, Lord, and that, again, that we would see people the way that you see them, that we would hear what you hear, Lord, and that we would feel what you feel, God, for each person. And so I just pray all these things in your name. Amen. All right. Thank you, guys, and I will see you next week.